I see myself as a hybrid. As far as I'm concerned, I'm just basically my record collection. I'm simply a series of influences.
Right.
What there is in me, I suppose, is prioritizing those influences. You know, okay, I'm going to use 7% George Harrison on here. We're going to use
a little bit of Bob Dylan.
A little bit of. We're going to marinate the whole thing in Bob Dylan, but then we're going to have a middle eight that is much more McCartney than Lennon.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to use a kind of Lou Reed drone on it. I don't even think that stuff out, but looking back, so when I hear my old records, I just hear other people.
There are two ways, though, to look at that. One is that it's derivative. The other way is that you're actually an extraordinary, you know, the kind of combining of elements to create something new is really an art.
Well,
it's an art form.
Arguably,
and most bands are like that.
Arguably, that's always what creation is. You know, what Bob Dylan did at his most exciting, Dylan was kind of basically mixing Bo Diddley and T.S. Eliot, you know, and Highway 61, he even references them both.
Right.
But basically, you know, you've got all, if you like, I don't know, Allen Ginsberg and Woody Guthrie, but those, you take something from where it doesn't normally belong and you put it somewhere else, and that's innovation.
That's the magic.
It's also surrealism, you know, so you take a photograph of, just actually find an old photograph of the sun shining down on the sea, then cut out a tomato, a photo of a tomato, easier than cutting a tomato out, and then you put a photo of a tomato over where the sun is, and you've instantly created a piece of surrealism. You just take something from where it was, when you put it where it didn't belong before, I suppose. Yeah. So I guess but I'm not sure I even do that, really, you know. I'm just shuffling one 60s influence into another.
But many years, but this is my point to come back to the last record, which again, 2 years ago, still I'm listening to it and thinking it's as good as anything of yours that I've heard. They may be 60s references, but they still work today. And I think that's the part that's so interesting, because for a lot of people, their references and their influences do not convey. So on the subject of putting things where they don't belong or where you wouldn't expect them, you are now living in Nashville, Tennessee.
I am, yeah.
And actually there's a little bit of influence, I think. I heard some Nashville twang on this last record, right?
There is some pedal steel, Russ Pohl. Which actually my partner Emma Swift got Russ Pohl to play on a record she put out before, about 2 years before mine. It came out in Australia.
Is it working for you to be there? That's obviously a different creative environment than the one you were in before.
Well, see, Nashville wears a Stetson hat for publicity purposes, but actually Nashville is Music City, like it says on the label. It says at the airport when you come in.
Right, truth in advertising.
And truth in whoever's making that, there's announcements at the PA. Welcome to Nashville, the Athens of the South.
Right.
You think, wow, you mean like Athens, Georgia? But that's further south.
It's already in the South. Hold on. Wait a minute, this is a puzzle.
We mean another one. Of course, they've got they have a replica of the Parthenon. But you know,
you like it, and in fact, you find people to collaborate with.
Oh, yeah,
right? And this record, in fact, classic Robyn Hitchcock fashion, you're the collaborator without peer. You know, you've got Gillian Welch on this, and you've got Pat Sansone of Wilco on this record. This is the one 2 years ago. And you've got a bunch of other people who you collaborate with. And the environment in which you're in Nashville really allows that to happen. It facilitates that kind of a process.
East Nashville particularly.
Yeah.
So, Gillian Welch and Dave Rawlings lived just actually down the road from us.
And you played with them in the past before.
This is not new. They were my first introduction to East Nashville.
Right.
Brendan Benson, who produced and engineered it, he lives across town. We did that in his studio before it was demolished.
Right.
Grant Lee Phillips has just moved there.
Right.
I think he's on that record.
Right? Yeah, right.
Sean Nelson from Harvey Danger, who's a buddy of mine, and Grant, he's just moved there.
Right.
I mean, it's a great place to find musicians of a certain strata. I mean, and in some ways it's quite parallel to Austin, you know. It's another sort of, I mean, Austin was the groover's paradise, but actually Nashville has got, East Nashville has a lot of groovers in it.
Yeah.
So you can, you know, you can groove in either place.